The Kraken is a submachine gun, Mach-10 Uzi looking gun. Sort of. It has a very unique animation when reloading and everything that's kind of odd, but whatever. This is a Crimson Fleet made gun, so it is a little bit rough, it is a little bit handmade. It's got that look to it, and I do kind of like the look of the Kraken. It definitely looks better when it's modded out than just the base version, but the base version looks okay enough too. For base stats, the Kraken has 3 damage on it. That is just a regular Kraken, that is not going up the tiers, and we will be talking about the advanced weapons, not going up to superior, because again, not sure if they're actually implemented in the game correctly or not. So, up to advanced. Base gun just has 3 damage per shot though. That is pretty low damage per shot, but it's not too bad because this does have a pretty high rate of fire and it does do decent damage per second. This one does hold 25 rounds in it, which I kind of wish was a little bit more for a gun like this because you can run through those rounds pretty fast. This shoots the 6.5mm round, which is one of 2 guns that actually fires that. Just the 6.5, not the MI version. The Kraken and the Maelstrom, both of them being Crimson Fleet weapons, so the assault rifle and the submachine gun. And this one is the better option if you are going with a pistol build. If you're not going with a pistol build and you're just going with whatever build, I would say the Maelstrom is a bit stronger. It kind of does everything the Kraken does a little bit more, since it has a larger mag size, it has longer range, has about the same rate of fire. So I find that one to be a little bit better. The Kraken also has 20 range. I believe this is 20 meters of range, which is fairly short, but it's okay for a submachine gun like this. You kind of expect it to have short range. Not the highest accuracy, and it does have a decent amount of mods. It's also fairly lightweight. The pros to it are that it's a fairly common gun. It's not super hard to find Krakens. You find them all over the place, and sometimes merchants sell them. Although I do find them to be kind of rare compared to other weapons for some reason, at least on merchants, but you can find all sorts of raiders that have them, whether that be the spacers, pirates, whatever it might be. There's a decent chance that one of them is going to have a Kraken or it's going to be laying around, so it's not a super hard weapon to find. It also shoots a super common round, so that is really good. 6.5 is probably the most common or second most common round in the game besides 7.77, so this is a good option for that. It is also the only pistol that fires this, so again, if you're using a pistol build, then this is going to be the better option for you over the Maelstrom. If not, then I wouldn't say that it is. It also, because of its rate of fire, has pretty good DPS, or can have pretty good DPS. Cons to the weapon are that it does low damage per shot, and kind of low damage per second. With mods, that does kind of help it a little bit. It also has the short range, which is a major con to it, so you're probably not going to be using this at super long range. You're only going to be using this indoors, which is okay. You're probably just going to try to use a submachine gun at that anyway. And even though it does only compete with one weapon that's shooting the 6.5, it is competing with arguably a better weapon in most situations than it. For an advanced version of the Kraken, I managed to get 34 damage out of this, and my build should have all of the damage stats that you can have for a weapon like this, including pistols and including things like ballistics, which 34 damage for an advanced weapon is not really that great, but it does have a high rate of fire, so it does get better with DPS. In my tier list, when I was talking about handguns, I put the Kraken into D tier, and I would still probably keep the Kraken into D tier. I don't think it's as good as the Maelstrom, and it kind of falls off heavily late game. Unless, again, you're using a pistol build, in which case it's a little bit better, but not by very much. And compared to most of the other weapons on that tier list, I would say it's probably on the weaker half of the weapons in Starfield. Now, let's talk about the modded version of it and how I would mod it. So first up is the barrel, and the barrel, I would put a suppressor on this. It is kind of cool that this weapon does get a suppressor barrel or a suppressed barrel added on. There's no real reason to not put a suppressor on this if you have the stealth perk, because that just gets you more damage if you have a suppressed weapon on anything. So more damage, more DPS. That one's pretty nice. For a laser, I would recommend that you just put the regular laser on here. You have that or nothing, so you might as well put it on because it's going to be something and it's going to be a little bit of a bonus to the weapon. For optics, you have iron sights or you have the reflex sights. The iron sights for this weapon, I don't really like all that much, but I don't really hate them either. They're okay to me. Reflex sight is better in my opinion. This is one of the few reflex sights I actually like in this game. Most of the reflex sights kind of look weird for some reason, especially with certain lighting. They can be very weird to use, but in this case I do actually like the reflex sight. For a muzzle, I would just recommend that you put the large muzzle brake on it. That'll just get you the best overall everything that you can get on this. So you get longer range, you get better accuracy, you get better stability. For slightly decreased hipfire accuracy, but if you're hip firing a submachine gun like this, you're probably right up next to something and just spraying it directly into it, so you really don't need to be that accurate. And I find that it does help a little bit at longer range, but honestly, you can put whatever you'd like on the muzzle. They're all decent. Then for a magazine and battery, this is the part that really helps out the Kraken and kind of makes it a decent weapon. and that is the Gutbuster rounds. I would highly recommend that you put Gutbuster rounds into this because these work basically like explosive ammo, so explosive submachine gun is pretty decent. It deals good DPS, okay damage per shot, and it can splash damage to other enemies that are very close to the impact. The only problem with this though is that you can't actually increase the magazine size, so you're still stuck at 25. I wish you could pair this with either the drum mag or the large mag and have a lot more rounds. I think that would make the Kraken a much more compelling option, especially if it could do both, and I don't think it would really necessarily outcompete the Maelstrom in what it's trying to do. So I think that would be a better way to upgrade this, but since we don't have that and you just have Gutbuster rounds, you're probably going to want to go with that. It does help out the gun a lot though. And then for an internal, you can put whatever you'd like in the internal. There is a hair trigger, high powered, or high velocity. I went with high power just to get a little bit more damage out of this, and once I had all this on there, I managed to get 43 damage out of this per shot, which is better than the 34 damage that we did before, and that's also not including the explosive damage from Gutbuster rounds, so the damage and damage per second is actually a bit higher than that, which is pretty good. You could go with the hair trigger if you want a higher rate of fire. I wouldn't really recommend it because you can already go through rounds pretty quick with this, and you could go with high velocity if you want a little bit longer range with this, but range is not really the Kraken's specialty. It's just probably one of the worst guns if you're trying to use it at very long range. I'd recommend if you're going with a handgun build, there are better handguns like the Regulator or some of the other pistols that are just good at that. And if you're going with a general purpose build, rifles are definitely going to have the longest range out of anything, so you might as well just go with them if you want long range. So for the modified version of the Kraken, I would probably move this up a tier from D tier to C tier. I think the modified version is good enough to be up there, especially since it's using a common round, and it doesn't have very much competition, only being the Maelstrom. It's still not as good as the Maelstrom for everything that it does, and this one is probably teetering on the edge of D tier. It could easily fall down there, and I could see myself putting it down there on a different day, but for right now, I would put it on the low end of C tier. It's okay enough. There is also a unique version of the Kraken, only one, although it is a very disappointing unique version. You have to get this from a quest, and it is called the Street Sweeper, but it doesn't have anything unique on it. It has no legendary effects whatsoever on it, which is already very disappointing, but for mods, it only has 2. It has a hair trigger and a reflex sight, which is pretty bad. You could modify a Kraken pretty early on, especially if you just have 1 point into the weapon modification and you've managed to get some research. You can do better than that by yourself just by finding a regular Kraken. So the unique version is just not worth going for at all. It's no better than a regular Kraken, and if you find any Kraken with any sort of legendary effect on it, it is going to be better than this one. So it's just really sad, especially since it has a unique name. So should you use the Kraken? Maybe. I would definitely say early on, if you're using pistols, then yeah, absolutely use it because you're just going to use up the ammo. And it's not bad to carry this around on you if you are going with a dedicated pistol build. It is also a pretty cool looking gun. I do like it for just like fighting indoors. However, it's not really a standout weapon either. So if you wanted to just forego this one and go with a better pistol build or go with a better submachine gun type weapon or automatic weapon, you could do better than the Kraken, and I don't think that you're going to be missing out on too very much. Tell me your thoughts on the Kraken down in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I hope you guys enjoyed this. You guys take care, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye!